13 years ago, Hurricane Sandy blew into New York and caused tons of problems for a lot of people, especially my friend Harry, who lived on the 50th floor in a 60-story condo in Midtown. Since the power went out, he had to walk down 50 flights of stairs just to leave the building. Luckily, there was a deli on the first floor there that he could get some food, but he still had to walk up the same 50 flights to get back home.
Welcome to another Happy English podcast coming to you from New York City. And here's your English teacher, Michael.
All right, thank you, John, and thanks, everyone. It's Michael here from Happy English, and I help people speak English better. And this is Happy English Podcast, episode 821. Floor, story, flight, condo, apartment. Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Happy English Podcast. I'm your English teacher, Michael, and I'm so glad you've decided to tune in and check it out. Today, we're going to look at some pretty unique vocabulary that we use to talk about where we live and work. Let's start with the word floor. We use floor to refer to each level in a building. Like Jack's apartment building has 6 floors. In Macy's, the shoe department is on the 3rd floor. By the way, in American English, the first floor of a building is the same level as the ground or the street. I know that's different from British English, but for Americans, when you step into a house or a building, you are on the 1st floor. 1 floor above street level is the 2nd floor, and so on. And if that building has an elevator, the button marked 1 brings you to the floor on the street level, which again is the 1st floor. You can use the word floor to talk about the bottom of the ocean too, like lobsters live on the seafloor. We also use the word story to talk about how many floors a building has. Basically, story is used to talk about the height of a building, like it's a 2-story house, or Jack works in a 40-story office building. Did you know the Empire State Building has 102 stories? So, you can say you live in a 10-story apartment building and your apartment is on the 3rd floor. You can also use the word flight when you talk about the steps between the floors of a building. So like 1 flight means 1 set of steps from 1 floor of a building to the next floor. So we use flight when we talk about the distance between the ground and a certain floor. So like if I say, my office is 6 flights up, it means my office is on the 7th floor of the building. When I lived in that old apartment building in Brooklyn, Jack lived 1 flight down. I walked up 2 flights to reach the barber. And speaking of apartment buildings, if you live in a city, you might live in a building that you share with other people and families. If you pay rent, then this building is called an apartment building. And in that apartment building, there are many spaces that different people live in. Those spaces are also called apartments. So the word apartment means both the building itself and the space you rent inside that building. Like Jenny has a 2-bedroom apartment on 79th Street near the museum. By the way, This would be called a flat in British English, but Americans just call it an apartment. So again, the word apartment means both the building and the individual living spaces in that building. Tommy's apartment was built in the 1920s. Since I mentioned when it was built, you can assume the word apartment there means the building Tommy lives in. You need to understand the context to know which meaning the word apartment is being used with. And, as I just mentioned, an apartment is the space you rent inside the building. In some cases, there are actually buildings where the individual living spaces are owned and not rented. That kind of building is called a condominium, or condo for short, and the individual living spaces are also called condo. Donna has a one-bedroom condo on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And let's talk about bedrooms for a moment. In American English, when we talk about the size of a house, apartment, or condo, we generally mention how many bedrooms it has. We assume that a living space has a kitchen and a dining room or living room and a bathroom. So we just count how many bedrooms it has when we talk about the size. We live in a 2-bedroom house. And speaking of bathrooms, in most houses in the States, the bathroom is the place where you can find the bath, the shower, and the toilet all in one room. A room with just a toilet is called a half bath. Yeah, a half bath. So, for example, Steve lives in a 3-bedroom house with 2.5 baths. Let me say that again. It's a 3-bedroom house with 2.5 baths. That means there's a kitchen, living room, 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms with a bathtub and a toilet, and 1 room with just a toilet. He lives in a 3-bedroom house with 2.5 baths. Keep in mind, the best way to remember English like this, and any other word or phrase in English, is to take that word or phrase, write it in a sentence that's true for you or true in your world, and then memorize your sentences. And remember this, you can get more practice using your English when you join my Podcast Learners Study Group. There, you can make new friends. Join us for live group lessons every week where we practice these podcast lessons together. Plus, you get access to the PDF transcript and audio download for every Happy English podcast in the past and in the future. And on top of that, each episode has exercises where you can practice this English point with speaking and writing checked by me. To learn more, just visit myhappyenglish.com and choose podcast lesson 821. Remember, learning another language is not easy, but it's not impossible. And I'm here to help you on your journey.
This podcast was brought to you by Happy English. Please visit myhappyenglish.com. Show your support for Happy English by leaving us a review. Get English, get happy, Happy English.